Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're all doing well out there. Before I start this video, I just wanted to point out that disagreement does not equal hate. There are some misconceptions out there about those who are happy to see Watchtower Society banned in Russia, as I am, and we wanted to clear up these misconceptions. As you can see, the people featured in this video, I own their books. They have received money from me in one way or another in support of their work. So I want to make sure that no one thinks that I have any hatred or any ill will towards anyone who I might have a minor disagreement with. So thank you very much for joining me now, and here comes your feature presentation. Antithetical. Directly opposed or contrasted. Mutually incompatible. Do you know something that's antithetical? I'm Son of Thunder, and I approve this message.
The whole issue of labeling the Watchtower extremists, as they are talking about doing, is really bizarre, because the Watchtower is anti-political activity and anti-violence, other than beating the crap out of children and hurting wives and not protecting children from pedophiles. They're not extremists. I'm sure I'm pissing off somebody as I'm saying this, but it's my.
Well, you're speaking the truth, Stephen, which is what you're here to do.
Well,
so.
Criminal activity is not protected by the First Amendment.
No.
And
just by the cover-up of pedophiles habitually worldwide by Watchtower in written policy, just this alone proves it to be a criminal organization. So their First Amendment human religious right automatically does not work with this. And strangely, Stephen Hassan admits this. And the main reason that they like to give, as far as the narrative for those who are not against the ban, is that we're emotionally charged and vengeful, and we want to see our family and other Jehovah's Witnesses hurt, imprisoned, and beat up, which is not true.
According to Silent Lambs, the Jehovah's Witnesses' policies encourage abuse by not reporting allegations to police, choosing instead to handle individual cases internally.
But in any case, I mean, I'm a human rights guy.
Likewise.
The group is making some strong accusations against the Jehovah's Witnesses. The group claims the church is paying victims for their silence and continuing the cycle of abuse.
I am an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I am an abuse survivor.
Claim Jehovah's Witnesses are continuing a cycle of abuse within the church.
We learned that 16 victims were paid the largest settlement in history of Jehovah's Witnesses, but forced to sign a gag order that forbids them from speaking about their abuse.
The group believes gag orders keep the predator's identity a secret, letting them continue a path of abuse.
Criminal activity is not protected by the First Amendment.
No.
And
these people here behind me are victims of abuse by Jehovah's Witnesses.
I believe that other children will be harmed.
My parents nor anyone else ever knew that I was abused by an elder in the congregation.
In March, settlements were reached in more than a dozen molestation cases, agreements that came with gag orders attached.
We find this bittersweet. On one hand, we're glad a few victims were finally getting some financial help, but on the other hand, we're sad and worried because they've been forced to give up their right.
There are thousands of us out there and thousands of children that need our help right now.
hey, we have a right to believe this, or
And victims groups say that they are critical of these gag orders because they tend to keep the identity of the predator secret while re-victimizing the victim.
Witnesses headquarters in Brooklyn was supposed to send a faxed response today, but as of news time, we had not received it.
The Jehovah's Witnesses have settled 9 lawsuits alleging church policies protected men who abused children for many years. In settling, the church did not acknowledge wrongdoing. Now, evidence has surfaced that leaders did know about some of the men, but apparently never informed authorities.
The
The Jehovah's Witnesses recently agreed to pay to settle a lawsuit that alleged the church knew or should have known McLean was a pedophile. One of 9 similar cases church headquarters settled without admitting wrongdoing.
Without admitting wrongdoing.
I'm a human rights guy.
Likewise.
Internal church records now coming to light in those lawsuits show that the church knew for years that some prominent members were sexually abusing children and did little.
It's really the cognitive dissonance effect.
His local congregation kicked him out and alerted church headquarters. But again, the church apparently never notified police. Heard now in prison admits he molested other children until 2003.
That makes no sense to me, where because it's a religion, it's okay.
Now this is where I get confused with their overall message. He's acknowledging here that it's wrong and a bit of a loophole to claim to be a religion and disguised as a religion in order to perpetrate and carry on this criminal behavior, which is covering up of pedophiles and knowingly allowing them to roam free and victimize again. And just like Christian from the Christian and Kacha channel, he made a great point. He said, how are Jehovah's Witnesses going to view us so-called apostates, really whistleblowers, if they see that we have some outspoken people that are going vehemently against the ban? They might reason in their hearts that deep down inside, we think that they are the truth. And according to John Cedars' wishes, he wanted us to share this chart that he made, indicating that if you were for the ban, or not against it, that you need to seek professional help. Now what?
As you would
And
expect.
that's one factor. Right. But
Now listen carefully to what Stephen Hassan says about human rights being taken way too far, and I'm in 100% agreement with him on this very subject. That's why I find this conversation so contradictory and so confusing. Listen in.
way too far to give liberty to groups that are violating the laws of the land, violating the very essence of human rights, that you need freedom of mind to have freedom of religion. And when you're instilling phobias, irrational fears, that to talk to a former member, you're going to be possessed by demons or Satan, or you're going to lose your salvation or your soul, it is not, it really is, in my opinion, a mental health issue, because it really affects your brain function. When
Now, Cedars, you spoke to him. Isn't it interesting that he begins to pretend to be surprised that there is a whole group of ex-witnesses that are against the ban? Let's listen in on this.
Good point.
What
I wasn't aware
happens
that
to
there
them.
was anybody who is pro-ban in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, so I'm a little surprised. So
Yeah.
from your question, I guess I am guessing that they're so hurt and so angry, they kind of want to see the group destroyed, even if it means a lot of family and friends and other innocent people persecuted or jailed.
Now herein lies our major disconnect, and it seems to have come down to pride and just wanting to win an argument, as opposed to actually using logic, reason, humanity. Those who are for the ban, or at least not actively against the ban, do not want to see innocent people jailed and beat up, and nowhere in the Russian law does it say that this will happen. Perhaps they'll have fines. Watchtower will lose millions of dollars, almost $60 million estimated of property, and this is the single best opportunity for them to have the pressure put on to change these deadly policies. There are no other things coming down the pipe that could possibly put them in this hot zone to change those policies that are killing and damaging people and families. What about those innocent people and families? This is not just about us and the current Jehovah's Witnesses. What about the future ones? We're looking ahead. Of course we don't want our families jailed and beaten, but something has to be done, and these little charts that Cedars created, no government's going to take the time to, even if his chart was correct, no government is going to take the time to weave in and out of all these ins and outs and loopholes and trying to regulate and spend all this time on this little drop in a bucket that is Watchtower society. This is not some emotional, cruel, knee-jerk reaction to be for the ban. Not one bit whatsoever. It's the fact that nothing at all is being done, and obviously doing nothing isn't helping whatsoever. So let's at least see what happens with the ban and not cause so many divisions and not make videos exposing one another the way he has. He has turned what should be a normal discussion among adults that may in the end agree to disagree into a complete minefield. If you look at one of his latest videos, see, he put most of us that have been speaking out on his video, taking the most unflattering clips that he could find to make it look like we are just completely irrational and full of anger and hatred and that we want to see Jehovah's Witnesses demolished, which is absolutely not so. So I hope that most of you did not fall for this, and definitely we should not be condoning any such behavior. When I made a video regarding our disagreement on the issue, I showed his side of the story fully and fairly, and I also contained a link in the description so people could watch his video on their own. But he did not give us that courtesy. He just showed those clips that he thought was unflattering. Not to mention blocking all of us from being able to comment or have discussions on the website or his videos. And we have to resort to responding with a public video, otherwise we end up being silenced and he gets full control.
In totalist mind control way, doing information control and behavior control and thought control and emotional control, and we're the right ones and everyone else should be banned.
Next, Cedars reveals what the real issue is: pride and just winning the argument.
Now things are really getting real, and I find myself getting more and more emotionally attached. So I'm actually grateful to have a professional counsellor with us this evening.
So I guess accepting your statement is true that there are ex-JWs who think the ban is a good idea. I would ask them, do they think that Putin and Russian dictatorship is a good thing? I would think that they would agree it's not. And nor would they be pro-Russian Orthodox Church. So I guess I would urge everyone to step back and have the bigger view.
To see the big picture and the big view, let's take a look at history. Egypt in 1960. Jehovah's Witnesses were banned by the Egyptian government, and my aunt and uncle and cousins were Jehovah's Witnesses, and still are. And what was the result of this ban? Well, they were not allowed to evangelize. To this day, they can still meet in small groups in homes, but they are closely watched. And as a result, the Bethel home, which was just a regular home in disguise, my family ran that home. They were the only Bethelites there. They actually printed their own literature, unbeknownst to the government there. But because the work had slowed down and Watchtower saw that it was not fruitful and not making them much money, just recently, they were told to prepare the house to be sold. And Watchtower sold their home, and even the furniture they used all their lives had to be sold with the home, insult to injury. And they were just thrown out in the street. Thankfully, we have plenty of family there that took them in, but keep in mind, my cousins forfeited college education and a lot of things so that they could run this Bethel home and be Bethelites in Egypt. So the ban did not cause them to get beaten up and thrown into prison. The ban actually, in this case, worked very well. That's not to say that a ban will always work perfectly, but this boogeyman version of this ban and Jehovah's Witnesses getting beat up all over the place and in the street is just a scare tactic. My own family is banned in Egypt, and they're plenty fine. Matter of fact, the only victims from the ban was a result of Watchtower actions, making them abruptly sell and move out of the Bethel home last year. I want to thank each and every one of you out there for joining me today. And let's not let this divide us any further. Let's reject any actions that anyone is taking against another to cause division. In the end, Russia is going to do what Russia is going to do, and our opinions are not going to stop it. So thank you so much for joining me. If you need to email me, here's my email on the screen, iamsonofthunder@gmail.com. And as you always know, I am Son of Thunder, and I'm here keeping watch for you. Until next time. Oh yeah, and just one more reminder.
They kill children! They murder little kids so that they can put them on the cover of magazines and say, look, martyrs!
Indeed.
I mean, on that.
Lie! It's nothing but a lie!
Well, it's such a critical thing, because people think they're studying the same New Testament that everyone else who's a Christian is studying, and it's not.